Welcome back to the deep dive. If you're building a brand, prepping for a big meeting, or just, curious about why some companies seem to thrive while others just grumble, this deep dive is for you.
Absolutely. We're tackling a topic that has moved from a, let's say, soft skill to an absolute business necessity.
We're talking about sophisticated brand storytelling. And for this, we are tearing into an incredible analysis from Lilian Raji.
For those who don't know, she's a global luxury communications advisor, a fractional CMO, and her column in Forbes is called The Pursuit of Luxury.
Right, and she's been advising top-tier luxury brands for decades. Her whole focus is on how these brands use emotional marketing to create these incredibly passionate customers.
So our mission today is pretty straightforward. We're going to extract the core insights from Lillian's latest piece on why storytelling is shifting. It's not just a tactic anymore.
No, it's becoming a crucial business asset. And Lilian makes this powerful central claim. Corporate America is finally catching on to what luxury brands have known forever.
Which is that you have to build a narrative architecture. You're not selling a product, you're selling a story the customer gets to star in.
But the stakes are incredibly high, and the urgency is, well, you can feel it.
You really can. There's this intense market pressure, and you can see the priorities for chief marketing officers just radically shifting.
How so?
Well, they're now recruiting storytellers with the same urgency they'd use for, say, a top operational strategist. It's like a gold rush for people who can build a narrative.
A gold rush for narrative talent. I love that. And Lilian grounds this in specifics, right? She references a Wall Street Journal report.
She does, and the examples are pretty stunning. You have a huge company like USAA hiring its fourth in-house storyteller.
It's fourth in under a year.
And their job is to, and I'm quoting here, bring to life scenarios, situations, and opportunities.
But the one that really gets me is the compliance firm.
Oh, that one is wild.
Yeah.
A compliance firm offering up to $274,000 for a head of storytelling.
That's a senior VP salary for stories. It begs the question, why?
Well, the why becomes tragically clear when you look at the flip side. When you look at the recent failure.
And this is the sharp contrast Lilian uses to really drive the point home, the absolute terror of inventory liability.
Exactly.
I mean, look at Saks Global. That's the conglomerate of Saks, Fifth Avenue, Neiman Marcus, Bergdorf Goodman.
Right.
They missed a $100 million interest payment. They're carrying something like $4.7 billion in debt and might be facing Chapter 11.
$4.7 billion. That is just an impossible weight. Look, Lilian is smart about this. She says no amount of good storytelling could have fixed that specific debt problem.
Of course not.
But the comparison to Neiman Marcus's history is so telling.
Okay, explain that. How does Neiman Marcus's past help explain this crisis?
Well, Neiman Marcus used to have this incredible legacy of narrative architecture. Think about their annual fantasy gift guide.
Oh, right. The one with like a private jet or a submarine.
Yes. That wasn't just a catalog. It was staging an aspirational future. It helped you see past the price tag because you were buying entry into a better version of yourself.
I get it. You're not selling a handbag. You're selling the moment you walk into the room with that handbag. You're selling the scene.
Precisely. Inventory just sits there. It's a liability. Narrative is the asset because it creates desire. The goal now is to treat customers not as buyers, but as protagonists.
And the product has to resolve some kind of deep emotional tension for that protagonist.
That's the core takeaway.
So if the CMO is now a director, how do you actually build that story? How does Lilian break it down?
She breaks it into 3 distinct acts that follow a customer's timeline, from performance to restoration to escape. So let's start with Act 1. The cognitive reset.
The cognitive reset. Okay, so this act is about framing different products as a single cohesive system for cognitive control.
Exactly. You're turning what seems like a discretionary expense into an operational necessity. It's not about luxury anymore. It's about buying invisible infrastructure for your mind.
And the protagonist Lilian sketches out is a successful executive, right, at the end of a long day. Spreadsheets, meetings, decision fatigue.
Total decision fatigue. So the products here are all about preserving what little mental energy they have left.
Okay, let's talk about that invisible infrastructure. The first product is the Lucyd smart glasses.
Right, and they're described as a modern Cyrano de Bergerac.
A brilliant invisible assistant whispering in your ear.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
With ChatGPT-enabled frames and bone conduction audio, they can give you metrics or reminders in real time. The CEO, Harrison Gross, said the point is you don't have to pull out your phone.
So the story isn't about the tech, it's about having an invisible edge. You're getting info without looking distracted.
That's the narrative. But then it gets interesting. The next product isn't tech at all. It's the Orame Italico Eyewear Valet.
Right, just a beautiful tray for your glasses. I was a little confused by this at first. How does a valet preserve mental energy?
Well, that's the genius of it. The founder, Yoni Barakat, pointed out that we just toss our most essential tools onto a counter. The valet signals that these instruments deserve respect.
Ah, so it's a physical ritual. It anchors the idea that your tools for focus are important.
It makes the whole process intentional. And that thinking extends to the BodyBilt Classic 3500 Series Executive Back Chair.
This one makes sense. Physical comfort equals cognitive power.
It's a perfect example. It has this NASA-inspired recline air lumbar support.
Yeah.
But the CEO, Tony Garbino, he nailed the problem. He said when your chair is wrong, your body is constantly working to compensate.
And that strain becomes fatigue you didn't even know you had.
Deep fatigue. So the chair isn't selling a cushion. It's selling cognitive bandwidth. It's selling the mental energy you get back.
Okay, so wrapping up Act 1, what's the big strategy here for a CMO?
You stop selling features. You're not selling Bluetooth audio or lumbar support. You script the brand as this invisible enabler. The product becomes a necessary investment in preserving mental energy.
It shifts from nice furniture to operational necessity.
That's Act 1 mastery.
Which leads us perfectly into Act 2, the psychological pivot ritual. The executive is home, they're depleted, decision-making is shot.
Right, so the story has to shift from performance to sanctuary.
Yeah.
And you can't ask them to make more decisions. You have to give them a ritual.
A decompression sequence. And Lilian shows how brands can combine totally different items to tell one single story of reclaiming peace.
And it has to start with a real physical exhale, something to break that cognitive loop from work.
And that exhale is the Baldacci 2022 Brenda's Vineyard Cabernet. It's described as a velvet exhale in burgundy form.
And it's paired with the Josephine Endegree 3 glass. The analysis focuses on the glass itself, which I love. It's hand-blown. It has these unique curves.
So it forces you to be mindful. You have to pay attention to it.
You do. It's a physical signal to the nervous system. The hard part is over. We're shifting gears now.
Okay, but one glass of wine isn't enough for a racing mind. What's next in the ritual?
Controlled indulgence. This is where the Bartesian comes in. The on-demand bartender paired with Suavecito Extra Añejo tequila.
That seems like a strange pairing. High-tech convenience with a slow, aged spirit.
It's totally strategic. When your willpower's at zero, you need certainty. The Bartesian founder, Ryan Close, says it gives people time back and a perfect drink without any effort.
And the tequila provides the counterpoint. The slow amber interruption to the day's chaos.
Precisely. The certainty from the machine is a real product you're buying.
Okay, I see. Then the story continues through nourishment, with the Balmuda teppanyaki grill.
Right, and this reframes cooking for one. It's not a chore, it's Epicurean performance. Even if you're alone, you're the performer, you're in control.
A contrast to the lack of control during the workday.
Exactly. And on that grill, Wild Alaskan Company salmon, it's a subscription, so it just shows up. The narrative is untouched wilderness delivered right to your sanctuary.
And to elevate that simple meal, NUM black truffle smoked salt.
Yes. The CEO, Awakone, has this brand that elevates African ingredients, so the salt becomes a sensory anchor, connecting a simple meal to this whole global gastronomic story.
And the final piece of Act 2, the Rora countertop system, a filtration fortress.
It's the last line of defense. It completes the purification ritual it started with that first glass of wine.
So the lesson for CMOs in Act 2 is to stop selling individual items.
Stop selling SKUs. Start selling the entire restorative ritual. You're not selling objects, you're selling peace.
That brings us to Act 3, the velocity escape. Now we're targeting the ultra-high net worth individual.
And the problem you're solving is completely different. It's not about acquiring things anymore. It's about their most finite resource, presence, forced focus.
Okay, so Lilian details this high-stakes car scenario. The protagonist is with a Chase Auto Finance advisor choosing between two Maseratis.
The MCP-URA, or the electric Grand Cabrio Folgore. And these aren't just cars. They are visceral rewards for a life of intense work.
The Maserati CEO, Andrea Soriani, says the car is designed around the driver, reflecting balance, elegance, and understatement.
And that word, understatement, is key. The car is positioned as a mirror of their mastery, not just their wealth. It's a reward for competence.
And the financing arm, Chase Auto Finance, becomes the sophisticated accomplice.
They reframe the whole question. It's not, can I afford this? It's, Which one better reflects the success I've already earned?
That reframing is everything, but the story doesn't end there. The decision requires a real test drive.
Which leads them to the Conquerors Club Miami, a private, invitation-only motorsport country club.
A trackside Valhalla. The club's president, Andrew Weiss, has this great quote.
The parking lot is the reason why I don't go to car shows anymore.
Exactly. But this isn't just about showing off. Lilian identifies the track as a therapeutic necessity for these control-addicted executives.
It's where they can finally shed their armor.
So the car isn't really about transport, and the club isn't about leisure, it's forced meditation.
That's it. It's a mental health prescription disguised as a sport. Weiss says motorsport forces you to live in the moment.
For someone whose mind is always running a dozen scenarios at once, that must be the ultimate luxury.
It's a meditative fugue state. At 180 miles per hour, you can't think about anything else. It's the only time their brain truly shuts off.
So for a CMO, the strategy is don't sell speed, sell the meditative state, sell the absolute necessity of being present.
That's the narrative. So you have these three acts: cognitive control, the pivot ritual, and the velocity escape.
And the big lesson from Lilian's whole analysis is that the product has to resolve some kind of emotional distress to get into the customer's life script.
If it's just a prop, it's a liability, it'll be replaced. If it's part of their narrative infrastructure, it's an asset.
So the final directive is pretty clear. Stop selling props and start directing scenes.
Your customer is the hero. Your product has to be the chariot that gets them where they want to go.
Which leaves us with a final thought for you, our listener. If a brand's value is defined by the emotional tension it resolves.
What specific emotional distress are you experiencing right now? Decision fatigue, lack of focus, whatever it is that a product could be reframed to solve for you.
That's a great question. The answer might just be the next million-dollar idea. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into Lilian Raji's incredible analysis.
With pleasure.
You can read Lilian's full article in Forbes for much more detail on all these case studies. Or you can find more of her analysis on the luxury industry at www.lilianraji.com. We'll catch you next time.